Yeah, so classes just kind of fluidly, come and go as you schedule them, and obviously they're going to be generally front loaded in grad school. And so at the beginning, it looks a lot like and feels a lot like undergrad, at least at MIT. You meet up with classmates to do P-sets, and they're due like maybe weekly, maybe bi-weekly. So the regularity of deadlines is a little bit lower than in undergrad, and you have fewer classes. So grad school is more like where in undergrad you're juggling between 5 and 6, 4 to 6 different classes plus like extracurriculars and stuff like that, and it's on this very like deadline-driven cycle of P-sets and exams and stuff like that. Grad school is a lot more. There are fewer things. You maybe have 2 classes and your research, and you're now juggling these fewer things, but they're also much more open-ended, and the deadlines are spaced further apart. And yeah, and in a lot of ways, it ends up being kind of like the same way that you approach undergrad. You still go to class when you can, and are still responsible for motivating yourself in a lot of ways to do all these things. But it kind of gradually transitions you to the point of being an independent, like self-motivated, internally driven kind of researching person.
I'd say that they're hard, but it's hard to say whether they're hard because everybody in the classes are so smart and intelligent, so informed in the topics and passionate about them that it makes me feel like I should be putting more effort into it, or whether the classes really are that hard. But it being in an environment where everybody is so passionate about what they're working on kind of makes classes harder sometimes, because if I feel like I just don't even care about some project, then I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Everyone else really seems to care about this and they're so interested in it. So that can make it harder sometimes. In terms of grading, I think that it's not harder at all than my undergrad. Like the grading is very fair and it's really reflective of the effort that you put into your classes. Not to say that you need to spend like 90 hours a week on a class to get an A, but like if you put in a reasonable amount of effort into learning the material, that will be reflected in your grade.
Another thing was like some of the classes I took, I ended up like meeting some other professors who have very different takes on all of this AI like kind of thing. And it's funny just to contrast, I think, different points of view. So I think that at least for me, the classes part of MEng was actually really interesting. I know some people don't like it as much, but I thought that was kind of a nice component to the whole degree.
It's hard for me to say really specifically a lot of the differences between undergrad and grad school, whether it's just undergrad versus grad classes or the huge differences between my undergrad university and MIT. MIT is a very different university than a smaller state school. So I got a lot different experiences in my undergrad where it was really large classes and large lectures, and um, it was kind of trying to prepare us to be manufacturing engineers in New Hampshire. And MIT classes are a lot more focused towards exploring and learning, and they give you a lot of opportunity to like explore your own interests. A lot of my classes have a project aspect, and usually those projects are either allowed or encouraged to be integrated with your research, so you can be simultaneously working on your research and your classwork at the same time, and you can apply what you learn in your classes towards some of the problems you're trying to solve in your research, which is really nice.
They are similar in some very important ways, which is that I feel like the people you're around are quite similar. They're usually like the same kind of flavor of academics, but also kind of like engineering, and you're building cool things. But at the same time, I think research is more about studying algorithms or questions as opposed to like checking off boxes on a problem set. Um, I think maybe some of the key differences are like your P set has like a, you can see the beginning, you can see the end. I think in a research project, you don't always know where the beginning and end start when you're first in it. You usually have to kind of define some of these things, and they may change along the road. And really, the thing I guess that stays the same is the vision of the thing you're trying to study. But at least you know, the steps involved, that's a much more fluid and creative process. So I think that's kind of the difference maybe, is there's like a little bit more uncertainty to doing research, but I think if you can stick with it, the results are pretty fascinating in the end.